Unleashed has always been a standout Sonic the Hedgehog title to me. It's always been a Sonic game I can look back on and truly appreciate what Sonic Team were going for and the game they ended up creating. It was their chance to turn the tables and give Sonic a new and great title, as many considered the series to be in a pretty dark place at that point. In this video I want to go over my personal feelings for Sonic Unleashed on what the game offers and generally why I love Sonic Unleashed the way I do. This is completely unbiased. Sonic Unleashed is by no means a perfect game and I will go over some things I do dislike about it too. I remember first seeing the trailer for it, Sonic throwing a ring in the air, whistling, and then this crazy arm and hand appearing and grabbing the ring and slamming it into a wall. With that trailer I had no idea what to expect. Was this a villain? Who was this? Either way, a new Sonic game was announced and I was very excited. Finally seeing gameplay in the later trailers, watching Sonic blasting through those stages at ridiculous speeds was unlike anything I'd seen before. It genuinely did look incredible and I couldn't get over how the graphics looked. It was almost like a movie, and at that point we'd never seen a Sonic game look as good as this visually. When I first learned that the arm in the announcement trailer actually belonged to Sonic himself in a new form called Sonic the Werehog, I was honestly a bit confused because the idea and the concept just was so random to me, honestly. Was I a bit skeptical about it? Maybe a little, because I feared it would take away from the experience I was hoping for to play as Sonic and just go fast. But I was still excited for this new gameplay style nonetheless, as it was something different and maybe it could be good. When Sonic Unleashed finally released in November 2008, I walked up to Blockbuster Video and I bought the game. I was so hyped, you have no idea, it just felt so good buying this new Sonic game. And with the Blockbuster carry bag in hand, I power walked all the way back home. I put the game into my Xbox 360 and finally started it up. This opening cutscene though, damn, this was impressive. This was honestly something I would expect from a full-on movie. The scene, the visuals, the music, there is so much going on here. And you can't help but keep watching, like your eyes are genuinely glued to this. It's insane, and probably the best cutscene I've ever seen from a Sonic game. This cutscene has so much style, so much action, and exactly what you want from an opening cutscene. Sonic destroying Eggman's robots in outer space, and eventually going head to head with the Doctor himself. This cutscene even has Super Sonic, and I don't think we'd seen Super Sonic at the start of a Sonic game since Sonic 3, so it was pretty crazy to say the least. How Sonic is grabbed by this robot and then just transforms into Super Sonic and chases after Eggman and just shows him who's boss. It was pretty crazy seeing Super Sonic in an actual cutscene speaking to Eggman like this close up. It adds more to that personal confrontation and this immersive atmosphere to the scene for the viewer. Eggman eventually turns it around and traps Super Sonic and drains him of his super form, deactivating the emeralds and destroying the Earth. Man, what the hell? I couldn't believe it when I first saw this. Sonic then transforms into this wolf-like creature. I think it's something to do with the Gaia energy or something. I don't really know, but either way, this cutscene took an unexpected turn. But it was still epic nonetheless. I just wasn't expecting the Werehog thing to happen in space, but I was digging this look for Sonic anyway, and it just goes to show how much actually happens in this magnificent cutscene. Sonic then falls to Earth and we begin our journey. When Sonic lands on Earth, which I always found kind of funny, how he falls from space and survives. Maybe it's the emeralds which save him just before he lands, it could be, I don't know. Sonic then crashes onto the ground and realizes something laying on the ground. This character is called Chip, or Light Gaia if you want to be more specific. This poor guy has unfortunately lost his memory, and Sonic, or Mr. Monster Guy, offers to help him get it back. What I love about the storyline for Sonic Unleashed is it's not too overly complicated, it's nothing too edgy or kiddie or whatever. It's just this middle ground sort of tone that can appeal to anyone. It's Sonic being on an adventure, not trying to crack jokes every 5 minutes. Nothing really cringy, at least not for me anyway. It's just this perfect tone for a Sonic the Hedgehog game. I'm not saying the story is perfect, because it definitely isn't. I can't say I like the whole Gaia confusion thing on the townsfolks or whatever, but overall it's just a simple, laid back and pretty fine experience. I've always enjoyed Sonic's bond with the new character Chip too. I never found it to get really annoying, and they seem to have a pretty good chemistry, and Chip himself is pretty adorable and likable. And I wasn't upset that he somewhat replaced Tails in this game. You know, Tails is still in the story, but Chip gave us a fresh new character and he works as a very important plot point, so his purpose never feels wasted or underutilized. A lot of people may question the whole Werehog part of the story, and I get that. I suppose the Werehog is one of those things you can appreciate, grow to appreciate, or just downright dislike, and that's perfectly understandable. Sonic Unleashed is split into two different gameplay styles: modern Sonic day stages where you run or boost at extremely fast speeds, mixed between 3D and 2D platforming, and then nighttime stages with Sonic the Werehog, which are designed in a much more slow-paced fashion with a beat-em-up type combat system. The day stages are pretty fantastic in Sonic Unleashed. It's hard for me to think of one stage I can say I dislike. Every stage feels like one big journey. You see so much throughout these stages as you progress through them, all the scenery and the world surrounding you, the immense speed at which Sonic runs at and the experience that comes along with it, and it feels like you've seen a lot when you finally finish each stage. It's never a case of, oh, that's just another generic stage. Every stage stands out in its own way, and every daytime stage makes me feel this way, and I want to go back and see it all again. It's wonderful. My favourite day stages in Sonic Unleashed have got to be either Windmill Isle Act 2 or Rooftop Run. These are just some of the greatest things to ever come out of the Sonic series in my opinion. The level design, aesthetics, the music, it all coincides perfectly in my opinion, and I cannot stress my love for these stages. The primary mechanic of day stages is the boost, an ability which does exactly what the name suggests. It boosts Sonic's speed by pressing either square or X depending on what console you're on, of course. This mechanic allows Sonic to do what he's known to do, and that is to go fast. Every stage offers Sonic the chance to do this, and it's exhilarating. It's also an effective attack too. You'll often find yourself boosting through a group of enemies and destroying them. This game introduced the 2D back into Sonic. It was to give us that classic 2D perspective. It was 2008 and we hadn't had that for a long time, and it was a neat idea, especially back then, as this whole 2D thing was new to the mainline series and it felt fresh, and it doesn't ever really feel out of touch in Sonic Unleashed. The 2D sections are genuinely fun to play through and feels incredibly rewarding knowing these sections inside out. Just think about the 2D section in Cool Edge when you're in that snowmobile, for example. Little creative things like that make this 2D gameplay that much more enjoyable and varied. Might I add, the 3D sections just blow me away nearly every time too. A fantastic example is this part on Rooftop Run, running up this clock tower and then grinding all the way down, and seeing 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗀 draw closer as you're coming down. It's moments like this where modern Sonic really shines, and the set pieces really come alive. You know, I will admit there are some level design choices in Unleashed which did cause a somewhat annoyance to me. The water section in Jungle Joyride throws me off a bit. The idea is so cool, you know, Sonic boosting on water and everything, and it's not so much of an annoyance now, but damn did I used to die and get confused here a lot. It could be because of that abysmal frame rate which could quite easily throw anyone off, but I did die a fair amount of times here. Eggman Land is also another example. The amount of times I died here is unreal. It is great that it was made to be a difficult stage, and Sonic does need more stages like this which aren't super easy, as that's what modern Sonic is these days for whatever reason. But there are some sections like the pipe section with the werehog and the lack of a drop shadow, which makes platforming awkward as hell, and a few sections with normal Sonic which may kill you if you don't act ridiculously quick. But nonetheless, it's a pretty fun and creative stage. I really do enjoy the fact that, you know, it makes use out of both Sonic and Sonic the Werehog using the hourglass, and it does get better the more you play it. I think it took me like an hour the first time I played it, but now I can beat it fairly quickly in comparison. I think the worst experience I had in the daytime stages overall was this side mission in Missouri. It focuses primarily on this drift mechanic, which is another daytime gameplay element by the way, which supposedly helps Sonic get around corners and stuff like that, but I've never liked how it felt in Unleashed. The animation looks cool, but I couldn't get used to it in this game, and it really does show in this particular side mission. You'll end up falling off the path so much, and it's just super awkward. Maybe I'm just bad at utilizing it, I don't really know. But they did greatly improve it in Sonic Generations. I just wish they kept the Unleashed animation, but the spin dash animation works too, I guess. All in all, I love the daytime stages in Unleashed, and they are by far my favourite part of the game. Now let's talk about the most controversial part of Sonic Unleashed, the werehog. I did mention earlier in the video I was a bit skeptical about the werehog the first time I saw it, as I just wanted to play as Sonic and play through the game in its entirety at blistering speeds, and I was afraid the werehog just wouldn't offer any enjoyment to me and kind of get in the way of the other portion of the game, the day stages, which in a way it kind of does. You know, there are some cases where you just want to play as the normal Sonic and do what he does best, but I've got to say, I enjoy Sonic the Werehog, and I think I've come to appreciate this portion of the game more and more as I've got older and played the game a lot more. And while I was afraid of the change of pace at first, it's actually a nice change of pace. It pretty much changes the gameplay almost entirely, as the primary gameplay mechanic is now a very in-depth beat-em-up system, which allows you to face off against the enemies in the stages with hand-to-hand combat instead of boosting through them or doing the homing attack. The combat system is huge. There are tons of different combos you can pull off, and this game, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, has a leveling up system. Modern Sonic has this too, but it's nowhere near as in-depth as the werehog. The werehog has a ton of different things you can level up, which aids you throughout the game and makes things a bit easier, especially when you need it in the later stages. The combat is pretty thrilling. It feels amazing pulling off these insane combos perfectly, and just watching the werehog go all crazy on multiple enemies and destroying them, it's fantastic, and there is so much potential. Sonic the Werehog can also double jump and stretch his arms out to grab ledges and poles and things like that, which can help you reach higher areas and progress through the stages. I think what I love about the werehog the most is the exploration factor and the nighttime aesthetic. These locations at nighttime are like a dream. I'm a nighttime kind of guy, so I'm always admiring the scenery surrounding these stages and listening to the incredible and chill music which goes along with it. The exploration works much better for the werehog than it does for normal Sonic in the day stages, as the werehog is designed to be a lot slower, and the way the levels are designed just coincides with that pretty well. I've always perceived the day stages in a way where they were designed to pretty much challenge the player into seeing if they can always keep the speed going. Like, they weren't really designed for you to stop and simply walk around, as there is almost never any reason to do so unless you're looking for the moon medals, but I'll touch on that later on. They pretty much want you to memorize these levels. They want you to do exactly what these stages were designed for, and that is to go fast and keep coming back and seeing if you can improve your previous run. Whereas the werehog is the slow portion of the game where you are able to stop and explore, but that's just my weird perspective on it. I think that's where the line is commonly drawn for some people. Sonic is known to be super fast, but the werehog gets rid of this entirely, and it introduces this massively different gameplay style to the player and changes the flow of the game. Like I said, I understand if you dislike the night stages, but I've always found them to be fun and a nice change of pace, which I grew to appreciate more and more over the years. Are there things I dislike about Sonic the Werehog's nighttime stages? Definitely. While beating up enemies and exploring is really awesome, and listening to the nice music and admiring the gorgeous nighttime scenery, these stages can sometimes go on for way too long. It's not a bad thing, of course, to create lengthy stages, but it does get to a point in some stages where you do question how is this stage still going on, and unfortunately it can get quite a bit repetitive. Sometimes there are hordes of enemies which create a barrier so you can no longer progress until you've beaten them, and admittedly I think the constant battles with the enemies is one of the main reasons the werehog stages do go on for as long as they do. The thing I dislike the most about the werehog, and it may seem kind of petty, and it's something that doesn't affect the gameplay at all, it's how the battle music constantly plays and completely stops the amazing level music. The battle music itself isn't bad, but it's hearing the same music play constantly without any choice and so often gets a bit irritating. What can I say, I love the werehog music a lot. It's quite crazy just how different the werehog portion of the game is in comparison to the daytime portion. It's almost like a completely different game, and it's impressive to say the least. I love the werehog for what it is and can't just dislike it because of how it fits into a Sonic the Hedgehog game. It plays well and has good combat and exploration, so in my book it's a fine part of the game, but that's entirely subjective. I have to admit the pacing for this game is a bit questionable and is kind of a hit or miss for some people. I'm not the biggest fan of the medal collecting in this game myself, but it's okay. There are just so many to collect and it never really felt right going through the day stages and awkwardly trying to find them. There's just something very off-putting about doing this in the day stages especially, not to mention the drag of having to do them in the nighttime stages too, just so I can progress through the game. It just feels so unnecessary and, in a way, a cheap method to extend the length of the game. I'm not sure if that's the best word to use, but a lot of the time I just want to proceed on with this fantastic game, and I do kind of wish they followed the same path SA1 did and just unlock the next level as soon as you finish the current one. I feel most people would agree if moon medals and sun medals were solely used to open extra stages and that's it, the game's pacing would have felt a lot more natural and progressive. Don't get me wrong, I love collectibles and stuff like that. In fact, this game has a lot of them, but doing something this mandatory and the amount you need to find is a big time drag. I guess that's it for the things I do dislike about Unleashed. Like I said, I'd rather pinpoint some things I do dislike too, as I'm not a biased person. With every great thing there's always a con to go along with it, and there's nothing wrong with expressing that. Another feature of Sonic Unleashed is the implementation of hub worlds. These are areas of each country you can freely explore at your own pace and speak to the townspeople, and it's how you find all the new levels as you progress through the story. A lot of people hate the hub worlds in Sonic Unleashed, but I think they're great. I enjoy talking to all the residents and what they have to say, admiring the scenery and the crazy amount of detail around these areas too. Just take the time to look around and you may notice things you haven't seen before. What can I say, I love exploring the back streets of 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 at night with that fantastic music, and I enjoy running around as normal Sonic. These hub worlds also offer local vendors, which allow Sonic to buy things which will increase his XP. It's spectacular seeing all the different variety of foods they put in this game, and it's always different depending on which country you're in. There's this pretty awesome and rare citizen which exists in Sonic Unleashed, and his name is 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. He's basically a travelling salesman who has a chow sock puppet and a suitcase in the other hand, and he pretty much sells you items which are unobtainable anywhere else. I always found it fun to go to different hubs and try and find him. I think just little things like that show how much Sonic Team really wanted to put in this game. Travelling to different parts of the world is a feature I've always loved about Sonic Unleashed. This was an opportunity for Sonic Team to let us see so many different environments, see so many different cultures due to the different parts of the world we are able to visit, such as 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 being France, 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 being China, or Missouri being Africa, and seeing all the different residents and some of the things they have to say, and the music which plays in the background for each country just fits perfectly. Like listen to 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 for example. And then listen to 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. It's incredible thinking about how much love and care went into representing different countries and cultures in this game. In a way, it somewhat teaches you and gives you some insight about different cultures around the world, such as the foods they eat, for example. Just another thing about this game which fascinates me. I also love how the way Sonic gets around the world too. It is through Tails and the tornado. They just give me such adventure vibes. Also, this game actually has 2 tornado stages. They're a lot different compared to the SA1 tornado stages. In Unleashed, they are pretty much on autopilot with the exception of pressing buttons which appear on screen to destroy oncoming threats, and that's pretty much it. They're okay, I guess. Simple but decent. It's neat flying through the sky and eventually reaching 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. That transition is incredible. I may or may not have mentioned the visuals of this game yet, but let me just say, I still question how this game came out over 10 years ago and looks this good. I might be crazy or over-exaggerating here. This game's visuals still look like they could somewhat hold up today. The environments are lush and full of detail. Sonic himself looks like straight out of an animated movie, and the game is just generally eye candy. In some cases, I think this game is better looking than Forces. Of course, Forces theoretically has a better graphical engine, but it's not utilized in any special or unique way, whereas Unleashed took the graphical capabilities of the original Hedgehog engine and went for this incredible art style and direction, which coincide almost perfectly with the power of the engine. Sonic Unleashed still remains one of my favourite Sonic games to date. It's full of ambition and fantastic ideas, and you can really tell Sonic Team put a lot of love into it and really tried with this one. It's a shame it was released to somewhat bad reviews, like 3.5 on GameSpot. What also confuses me is how the Wii/PS2 version got so much praise critically, like in comparison to the 360 and PS3. I simply don't see it, I really don't. But it's nice to see the community coming together and showing their love for this game. But if you don't like the game, that is completely respectable too. It's definitely not a perfect game by any means. It has its technical issues, such as a terrible frame rate in some scenarios, and I did point out a few things I do dislike about this game, because I feel constructive criticism can really go a long way, and I feel it's always good to try and stay open-minded on things. All in all, I love Sonic Unleashed. What are your thoughts on this game then? Make sure to drop a comment and let me know, and let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing too. My name's 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Until next time, catch you guys soon.